Tonight's tinkering out in the shop is accompanied by Dark Horse Black Lager from Namesake Brewing in Winnipeg. The tasting notes on the back of the can call it dark, roasty, and fruity. Looks like nothing particularly unusual in this one. It's a fairly standard dark beer. A little hoppier than I was expecting, but still pretty good. So today I'm going to be, hang on. Does that show it any better? I don't know. I'm going to be trying to repair this Pyle branded metal detector. PHMD 74 is what it says. A friend of mine dropped this off and said, "Hey, it doesn't work. Can you fix it?" And I said, "What's wrong with it doesn't work?" And they say, "I don't know. It just doesn't work." So I guess we'll have to take it apart and see if we can figure out what's going on. But first I want to make it fit on the workbench so I can actually show you what I'm seeing here. So let's take this shaft off and get that out of the way. So here are the two important bits. This is the search coil that rubs around the ground and does the actual searching. And then there's the brain box up here, which has some controls on it and a scuffed up screen, a place for headphones. There is a speaker on the underside here. I've got a battery box down there. So metal detectors work by basically having an inductive coil down in the ground. In most cases, it's two coils, two fairly dense coils of wire that a signal, a relatively high frequency signal, is pulsed from there into the first coil, and that is received by the second coil. But if there's any metal in proximity of it, that changes how the two coils interact with each other, and that change in interaction is detected up here and translated into a signal on the screen and an audible signal that you can listen to on your earphones. Typically, it's a fairly screamy, annoying sound when it picks something up, but that gets your attention, I guess. So let's see if we can power this thing on. And okay, I think I know why it doesn't work. That looks like batteries have leaked all over this thing. Oh yeah, that's horrible. Okay, so this should be a fairly easy fix as long as all that battery goo didn't get down into the guts of the machine. I'm not even sure how I would get into here, although I bet there is some screws underneath this sticker here. Yeah, I can feel a depression there. There might be a screw under there, and so maybe I would have to go in that way. Yeah, I think that might be... Oh wait, is there a screw down there? Oh, that feels like a screw down that hole. Maybe that is enough to get into it. Okay, there is one screw. Does that do anything? Oh yeah, pushing on that lifts that up. Okay. Now what do we got over here? Ooh, little cap that just pops right off, revealing... There we go. That's second screw. Is that all it takes to get into there? That'd be cool. Yeah, it is. All right. Just push that up that way a little bit. I'm guessing there's there's a couple of battery wires, but that gets us in. And the circuit board looks fairly clean. So here is the wire going down to the search coil. Looks like it is 4 conductors plus a shield. So 2 conductors for each of the coils, one for the pickup coil and one for the transmit coil, more or less. I don't know what else to call them. There's black and white wires for speaker. There's power wires, and everything else is just right on the board. There's quite a lot going on there, more than the really basic ones. If you've been around the channel for a while, you may recognize this kit that I did a couple of years ago, actually, which is just the most basic of of metal detectors. It has 2 transistors acting as an oscillator and another one acting sort of as an amplifier on the receive side, a little speaker here, a little sensitivity adjustment there. And it just barely works, but it does do the job. You can, detect something like that. But that is, as basic as you get for a metal detector. This one actually seems to have some processing going on. But before we look too deeply at the board, let's just see if the battery situation is the only fault on this thing. So I'll just connect the power supply, the bench power supply, directly to this. It says here it needs 9 volts, which it gets from 6 AA batteries typically. So let's power it on and see what happens. It beeps. It's lit up. Okay, cool. Okay. So it seems to be able to detect metal. That's good. How about the gold on my ring? Yeah, okay. So I'm going to guess, without having read the manual yet, because I didn't get one, that when you fire it up, it just sort of detects, does a quick self-test and detects what's going on around it and considers that normal, and then anything that changes is it detecting something. Okay. So power that off, and I guess we'll deal with this grotty battery container situation. Looks like there's a screw in the back there, so I might be able to unscrew it to get it out, which would make it an awful lot easier to deal with rather than having to reach down the hole there. Are you going to come out? Is there another screw into that corner? Oh, yeah. Oh, that is a horribly corroded screw. Okay. Can I get that out? Am I going to have to do something ugly? Oh, there we go. One of these things is not like the other. But that should let me take this out now, and yeah, I can clean that up an awful lot easier. So this side's okay. That one looks good, but this side, yeah, that spring and that pad there are in pretty ragged shape. So initially, I think I'm going to use, let's start with the steel wire brush and then move on to the brass probably, just to get the surface all polished up so that it'll actually conduct. Might as well do all of them. That one's not in too bad a shape. Yeah, and I'll give them a bit of a cleaning, a bit of a scrubbing. Hopefully that should be good. Let's try a little bit of 600 grit sandpaper. See if that'll clean up the surface. That's better. I'll have to give it a little bit more, but I think I can get a good electrical contact out of that. Into the surface of this spring as well. A bit of elbow grease should be able to get this crud out of here. Or maybe some other method. I'll do a little bit of cleanup of the area. Just use some alcohol to clean up any of the loose crud that's in here. Although that's not going to neutralize the chemistry of it, because this will be an alkaline solution coming from the batteries. I'm just initially cleaning up anything that's loose and dusty and whatnot in here. I think we'll have to neutralize that that chemical a little bit, which means we'll have to use a weak acid. And my weak acid of choice is acetic acid, available in my wife's kitchen. And yeah, that is clearly doing something. I am going to have to clean that off with alcohol again. I suppose I could run a baking soda kind of solution through there to stop the acid, but I can probably just rinse it off with alcohol too. But yeah, There's definitely something there. I think that will do. And it only took, what, 5 swabs and a couple pieces of paper towel and a bit of chemistry. Right, once this stuff dries off, let's put it back together and see what happens. I do notice that one of the speaker wires seems to have gotten pinched. And while it was working, I think maybe I will just trim that out and solder it back together again with a bit of heat shrink, just for good measure. I mean, while I'm in here, might as well do it right, yeah? There, that ought to do it. I guess before we put this thing back together and give it a test drive, we should see, just for curiosity, what all these chips are on here. So these two are the same, and the rest of them are all different. That is a Haltech chip, which is controlling the pins to the display here. I'm going to guess it's some sort of a microcontroller, microprocessor, or something like that. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. HT46R04064. It is an 8-bit microcontroller with enhanced analog to digital. What do we know about it? 42 I/O, 8-channel 12-bit ADC, 3-channel 8-bit PWM output, 8 programmable timers, 4, 8, or 12 meg internal oscillators. All right, well, it's a microcontroller. Dates back to 2013, which seems about reasonable for this device. The two identical chips are these low-powered JFET quad op amps, and the little 8-pin chips are also op amps. The one other 16-pin chip on there is this HCF 4053, which is 3 2-channel analog multiplexer demultiplexers. I guess there isn't enough analog inputs on that microcontroller, although it said there was a bunch. Weird. And the last of the 8-pin chips is this dual comparator chip. It's, other than the Haltech processor, it is the only other one that's not by ST. All the rest of the chips are ST chips. I guess that was their favorite brand, or the only one they could get. I'm not sure. Interesting, though. Anyway, let's put this thing back together. There's just 2 screws holding it in. Where are those screws? There they are, back there. So one down that hole and one down this hole back here. I didn't even have to really take that bung out, except for I didn't know that hole was back there. That's my long-reaching screwdriver. So now all there is to do is toss a bunch of batteries in there and see if it runs. Contact! Woohoo! It is alive. Okay. So does it detect my gold ring? Yep. Does it detect steel? Yep. How about... So let's see if it'll detect brass. Yep. It likes that. Steel, sure. Gold? Yep. Okay. Yeah, what else do I have around here? How about copper? Oh yeah, it likes that. Cool. Okay, so I think that's going to work. It's nighttime right now. I will have to, during the daylight hours, take this outside and just run it through its paces in its natural environment. One moment, please. Okay, so I've got my detector out in the backyard. I've tossed a handful of coins on the ground in various places in the grass. So I'll just see if we can... Oh. A couple of different beeps that it makes when it swings across one. And what do we got here? That is a US quarter. That is a 2-pence coin. The inevitable bottle cap, which you're always going to find when you're metal detecting. What else? I think I put something over in this. Yeah, okay. Now that is a Canadian quarter. Canadian $2 coin. Don't even know what that one is. 20 cents in some currency. So that was with it just set in sort of medium depth sense, because I had those tossed just into the grass. I'm going to put it on deepest because I want to see if I can find buried wires. Okay. And that is in fact where the trench going between my garage and the house is. So I know that there's wires there because I put them there myself. Cool. Okay. And that should be the buried wires coming from that telephone pedestal going to the neighbor's house. Excellent. Well, that definitely works. I mean, it's certainly better than this cheap little kit that I built. Is it the most precise thing? No. Could that be partially because I'm not fully versed in the usage of it? Maybe. I did find the manual on Pyle's website when I went searching for it, and it does have a fair bit of information on how to use it in the different modes. Unfortunately, it's a pretty bad translation. I'll put a link to that manual down below if you care to look at it. But it does work. It found all the coins that I tossed out in my backyard. It found some buried wires. Not all of them, not as accurately as I had hoped, but it did indicate that there was something down there. When you put it on the highest sensitivity. And again, there's a bunch of different modes on here for coins and for other metals and some memory modes that I couldn't quite understand from reading the manual, but there it is. The core of this video was, can I fix this thing? And well, it was an easy fix because it was an easy problem. There are many different ways that you could have solved that. I used several of them. Suppose I could have replaced the battery springs and battery contacts and whatnot as well. They're still not beautiful, but they're clean where it matters. They make good electrical contact, and it works. Anyway, thanks for watching. I appreciate that. Thanks to my buddy for dropping this off. I'll have to figure out how to get it back to him one of these days. Questions and comments down below as usual. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you later.